Good evening, Trump's family. Welcome back to my channel. Have a good night, everyone, and God bless you. Alright, without further ado, let's get into the news. Governor Greg Abbott says Texas busts nearly 16,000 migrants to sanctuary cities. Texas Republican Governor Greg Abbott on Tuesday said his state has bused nearly 16,000 migrants to sanctuary cities. Since the start of the relocation program in April, quote, Texas has bused over 15,900 migrants to sanctuary cities. He tweeted this week. He continues, quote, we're providing relief to local communities overwhelmed by Biden's open border policies. More than half of the migrants went to Washington, D.C., while just under a third were sent to New York City. The remaining migrants were sent to Chicago and Philadelphia. As per Abbott's remarks, D.C. has been receiving migrants from Texas since April of this year. And the state added New York and Chicago to its busing program in August. The first migrant bus arrived in Philadelphia just last month. Florida and Arizona have joined in bringing migrants to sanctuary cities in the north as the southern states struggle to deal with the ongoing migrant crisis. House Ways and Means Committee decides that Trump's taxes go public on Friday. President Donald Trump's taxes are set to go public on Friday. The Democrat-controlled House Ways and Means Committee stated this week. The committee obtained the tax returns just last month after the Supreme Court ruled in its favor. The tax documents will account for Trump's tax returns from 2015 to 2021. Last week, the House Ways and Means Committee claimed in a report. The IRS had not audited Trump for 3 out of the 4 years he was president. The IRS's failure to audit Trump apparently broke its own rule. The committee's report did not include Trump's tax returns in the report because confidential information had to be redacted before being publicly released. Trump was the first president to refuse to release his tax returns. Since doing so became an expectation of presidential candidates. Democrats have been anxious to inspect them since Trump announced he would run for office in 2016. Supreme Court agrees to keep Title 42 border policy in place temporarily. The Supreme Court voted 5-4 on Tuesday in favor of keeping Title 42 in place, while legal challenges around the Trump-era border restriction play out. The decision comes about a week after Chief Justice John Roberts stayed a lower court order that would have ended the pandemic-era policy on December 21. Title 42 allows for asylum seekers at the border to be expelled to prevent the spread of diseases. On Tuesday, the court agreed to keep that pause in place, granting an emergency request by 19 Republican attorneys general who warned that allowing Title 42 to expire will lead to an explosion of illegal immigrants crossing the southern border. Justice Neil Gorsuch joined the court's 3 liberals in voting against the request for a stay. Washington-based U.S. District Judge Emmett Sullivan had blocked Title 42 in November, saying the implementation was arbitrary and capricious and setting the December 21 expiration date. The Republican attorneys general filed their emergency repeal written by Mark Brnovich from Arizona. Quote, no one reasonably disputes that the failure to grant a stay will cause a crisis of unprecedented proportions at the border of the filing read. He continues, quotes, DHS estimates that daily illegal crossings may more than double from around 7,000 a day to 15,000. A day once Title 42 is terminated. Terminating Title 42 would, quote, recklessly and needlessly endanger more Americans and migrants by exasperating the catastrophe that is already occurring at our southern border. The Biden administration had argued against the emergency bid for the Republican attorneys general, claiming that the Republican states did not have the legal right to challenge Sullivan's ruling. More than half of states poised to raise minimum wage next year as $15 an hour gains traction. For states will have a $15 an hour minimum wage by New Year's Day, while 27 states are poised to raise the minimum wage in 2023. Some states are enacting the wage change after January 1. So by the end of 2023, there will be 6 states that are set to have minimum wages at or above $15 an hour. They are California, Connecticut, Massachusetts, New York, Oregon, and Washington. Other states are gradually implementing a $15 an hour minimum over the course of several years, including Delaware, Florida, Illinois, Maryland, Nebraska, New Jersey, Rhode Island, and Virginia. The federal minimum wage of $725 remains in place for 20 states. The Congressional Budget Office found last year that raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour would increase the federal deficit by $54 billion over a decade. due to the increase in prices for goods and services. 1.4 million workers would lose their job, the report states. Meanwhile, inflation over the summer placed the federal minimum wage at its lowest value in 66 years. According to the Economic Policy Institute, inflation is up 7.1% from last year, and some experts are concerned that increasing the minimum wage will fuel already high inflation. However, the Center for American Progress, a liberal group, maintains quotes that there remains little to no evidence that workers' wages are causing today's high inflation. Homeland Security Department failed to send crime data to FBI database used to vet gun buyers. The Homeland Security Department has failed to regularly report the disposition of criminal cases to the FBI background database used to vet firearms buyers, creating a heightened risk that bad actors may wrongfully obtain guns. The agency's internal watchdog warns in a new report. The Homeless Office of Inspector General said the department's failure to consistently report data to the National Instant Criminal Background Check System, or NICS, violated the law in some cases and left a major gap in a background check system designed to stop criminals from getting guns. Quote, if NICS examiners do not receive disposition data to approve or deny a firearm sale within 3 business days, licensed seller may transfer firearms at their own discretion. The report continues, quote, therefore, DHS not sending disposition data to NICS and its delayed and insufficient responses to FBI inquiries create a risk of. Inspector General Joseph Farr said the agency's compliance was so erratic that DHS ran afoul of the NICS Fix Act of 2018 by submitting at least 2 semi-annual certifications to the Justice Department that were completely inaccurate. Quote, this occurred because DHS has no oversight or policy to ensure compliance with NICS reporting requirements. The report noted as a result of DHS's inaccurate certifications. The DOJ semi-annual report to Congress on fixed NICS Act of 2018 compliance was also completely inaccurate. Pending home sales dropped 38%, the largest annual drop ever. This is the 6th straight month of pending home sales declines, and 12 of the last 13 months on a year-over-year basis. Pending home sales collapsed 38.6%, the largest annual drop ever. Quote, there are approximately 2 months of lag time between mortgage rates and home sales, Lawrence Yun NAR as chief economist said in the statement. He continues, quote, with mortgage rates falling throughout December, home buying activity should inevitably rebound in the coming months and help economic growth. Pending sales fell in all 4 regions in the month, led by the Northeast and Midwest. Outside of the pandemic collapse, this is the lowest pending home sales index level ever. Most problematically, pending home sales are often looked to as the leading indicator of existing home purchases, given properties typically go under contract for a month or 2 before they're actually sold. And I'm reading a Business Insider article. Representative Jamie Raskin, Senate GOP majority could still install Trump as Speaker of the House. Matt Gaetz has floated the idea before. This is an article in November. And although there's little to no chance, or I should say slim chance, that this takes place, it is possible. This is a November 15th article. There have been other articles as a Business Insider article that I'm reading. Democrats say GOP members of the House could try to make Trump the Speaker. Pro-Trump members have repeatedly talked about the idea. Representative Matt Gaetz previously told supporters he would nominate Trump if the GOP took the House. Now, he doesn't have to be in Congress to become Speaker of the House. What could take place? This is a possibility if McCarthy doesn't get it on the first attempt. And the other challengers, that whether it's Scalise or Biggs, doesn't get it. There's a possibility that Trump could become Speaker of the House. I'm not saying that it's anything more than a 5% chance. Maybe not. Maybe not even that. But if McCarthy doesn't get the representatives, the Republicans, he needs to get him into the speakership, the Speaker of the House role. And if his challengers don't get the numbers needed to replace or to overtake McCarthy, it is a possibility. The interesting thing, could you imagine the apoplectic, completely irrational meltdown from media and the Democratic Party if Trump was Speaker of the House? But I will say this, McCarthy, if he becomes Speaker of the House, will do a lot better than people think. Then you'll have Scalise if Scalise becomes Speaker of the House, or Biggs. They will do even better, but I do think that no matter what happens, you're going to have a Trump foreign policy, economic policy being implemented, and also impeachment of Biden being implemented through this House. The impeachment will take place for sure. That's not you need the House for removal. So impeachment of Biden will take place. They're going to begin investigations, formal investigations. They're going to subpoena almost certainly Hunter Biden in January. They've talked about demand and congressional testimony from Hunter in January. Unlike Democrats with Trump, impeachment is going to take place. They're not going to have FTX money and they're not going to have the House. They're not going to have FTX money, the House of Representatives, or Twitter. Okay. But Democrats will not have $1 billion in FTX funding. That's according to Elon Musk. The publicly disclosed funding is $70 million. So they're not going to have that. Okay. They're not going to have that. That's huge, because they were able to barely keep the Senate. Okay. Barely keep the Senate. And that's with Libertarian candidate taking 80,000 votes. Okay. Notice how the Green Party's nowhere to be found. But the Libertarian Party is. Democrats have steamrolled the Green Party, but Libertarian Party, just if you remove the Libertarian Party from Nevada and Georgia, then Republicans take the Senate. I don't know. That's a whole other story. Trump and Trump Republicans are the most libertarian Republicans that actually they're the most libertarian politicians in Washington today. Okay. They're not the Mitt Romney, Chuck Schumer, Pelosi and Liz Cheney type of, one gigantic political party never-ending military conflict machine. So you're not getting, you voted for Trump. He's the antithesis of the Lincoln Project foreign policy. Trump Republicans were against just shutting down economic activity and printing all the money from the Federal Reserve because he shut down economic activity. So I don't understand what the point is. If you're a libertarian, and you're happy about giving the Senate to the Democratic Party, I get it. If you vote Green, I understand third parties. But if you vote a Green Party in 2016, like I did, okay, I'm voting for Trump. Now a lot of people who voted Bernie Sanders, Green, and are voting Trump now, a lot of people more than the average person understands or can comprehend. Okay, the Green Party and Trump have a much closer foreign policy than Liz Cheney and Chuck Schumer. Alright, I should say they're sorry. They're the answer there. They have a different form and opposing viewpoint, a different viewpoint, less militant, then I'm all over the place. Trump is the less militant option. So why on earth would you? Anyway, that's a whole other story. It's a moral imperative to vote for Trump and Trump Republicans, if you don't want endless invasions, which is what we see right now in Europe, and record highs in inflation in the economy. We're heading into a recession. Another recession. We had a recession with corporate profits going up and inflation at 40-year high. You explain that economic system to me. But you will see impeachment, ladies and gentlemen, you will see the House of Representatives preventing Democrats from continuing to tank the U.S. economy. You will hopefully see a continual evolution of the Republican Party to a more populist and more libertarian political party. If you look at all these left-leaning pundits, I don't think they actually see like the economy is terrible. The economy is terrible, and that's because of Biden's economic policy. Foreign policy is a catastrophe. That's because of Democrats and mashed potato brains in the Oval Office. It's objectively worse than it was under Trump. But the meltdown is not there. Won't have Twitter anymore. So the pendulum is swinging. Ladies and gentlemen, is it possible that Trump becomes Speaker of the House? If I was Trump, I would do that. I would, just because you have to ask yourself, well, how much work did Pelosi do? How much work was it to be Speaker of the House? Democrats vote in line at all times. Left-leaning Democrats like AOC couldn't even write a letter in condemnation of the foreign policy. They wouldn't vote for Medicare for all on the House floor. They just vote in lockstep with what the Democratic National Committee wants. So actually, Trump would have to do a lot more work, but it would be a lot. It'd be very interesting. Republicans don't work like that. But you're going to have a Trump Republican House of Representatives even with McCarthy. That's what I got for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel. If you're up for it, I'm gonna get back to work. Thanks for watching.